coming to the Design Challenge case study presentation and critique. Today's the third day, last day, so we're super excited to have you all here. My name is Esther. I'm a volunteer for the creative team where we help bring design challenges to IterateUX platform. Regarding IterateUX, we are an open virtual Discord community that helps UXers learn, connect, and grow in their careers. In IterateUX, we offer sessions and events on Discord and events such as portfolio reviews, UX challenges, which will help you build your UX skills. There's weekly events with guest speakers who share their expertise and industry experience in various UX related topics. There's portfolio and resume reviews where you can get one-on-one feedback. There's also design feedback, coffee chat sessions, design challenge as we're doing now, whiteboard challenge, and mock-up interviews. In terms of today's session, we're going to have Mandy give her critique for the teams. We have an upcoming event tomorrow as well. It's going to be a wrap-up party and we will announce the winners. So please be sure to join again at 5:30 Pacific time. So during the time, please stay muted and you can unmute yourself when you need to share. Okay, and make sure to use the chat box throughout this meeting and share any of your questions and comments there so we can bring them up during the Q&A. Okay, our virtual meetings are every Thursday at 5:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time. So feel free to check out our event, join our Discord channel, and where you can start a conversation to find information through the IterateUX community. So in the chat box, Padma will share some links. So if you would like to become a mentor or a volunteer, feel free to click those links to sign up. Also, there are links for networking. So please be sure to share what you've gained and learned through IterateUX and share it with your social media. If you would like to leave us some feedback, feel free to fill out our surveys for our future events. You can visit us on our website and you can make a donation to IterateUX so that we can improve our platform as well. So now I'm going to turn the floor to the teams. Today we'll have two teams present. The first team is Team 10. And then after 20 minutes of their presentation, we'll have Mandy give her critique, and then we'll have Team 25 give their second presentation. So enjoy the event today. Thank you. I'm going to stop sharing. For Team 10, would you like to share your screen? Okay, you guys can start when you're ready.
Hi, welcome to our presentation. Our app that we made was Healthish. So through the design thinking phases, we got a solid understanding of our problem and then used that information to create a health and fitness app for neurodivergent users that was accessible, fun, and user-friendly. We had 4 weeks to do this with 3 people on our team. We used Google Forms, Figma, Google Meet, and Miro. So for our problem, we were looking at neurodivergent customers who wanted to maintain a healthy lifestyle, but were facing challenges because many apps were not catering to their unique needs and abilities. And so these apps were more so tracking progress, which ended up leaving our neurodivergent customers feeling misunderstood and left out. So our solution was making a digital product for the neurodivergent community, focusing on gamification, motivation, and establishing and maintaining healthy habits. And then these are the 4 phases that our team went through. Each phase had a 1-week time limit. So the first thing we did was user interviews. We talked to those who were open about sharing that they were neurodivergent, and then use that feedback to understand how they feel about using fitness apps and what their pain points were. And the 4 things that were common themes were fitness and health apps actually make neurodivergent individuals feel ashamed or bad because of losing streaks. Many had perfectionist tendencies, and our users didn't mind notifications, but they did mind the language that was attached to notifications. We also saw that most of our users wanted a focus more than just weight loss. They actually didn't like the term weight loss. They wanted a broader scope, and they wanted it to be fun and friendly. And we also had a lot of individuals tell us that they wanted customization, personalization, and having that option. We also conducted a survey because we wanted to understand how people currently are using fitness and health apps. So we asked questions such, what is your age? What is your gender? How often do you exercise per week? Fitness apps previously downloaded. Current features that you're using in fitness apps. And we also asked, what preferred features would you want to see in a fitness app? We also ask for preferred devices when you're tracking fitness progress, and then what motivates you to continue using and being engaged with those apps. We also asked for general feedback, which was pretty similar to our user interviews. So gamification came up, the fear of missing out or kind of feeling bad about certain things, wanting it to be simple, easy, and effective, and having options on how they're going to track that progress. So trends that we saw were most of our participants identified as female between the ages of 25 and 34. The biggest scope was users were more inactive with their lifestyle of fitness and worked out less than 3 times per week. Our survey also showed that the smart device most used is a phone, and MyFitnessPal was the app that was most downloaded. We then did a competitive analysis based on user interviews. So what we did is we took just a random smartwatch, the iOS flagship and the Android flagship, along with 5 gamification apps already out there. And most were tracking, counting steps. Most were free and were able to use both on iOS and Android. Something that we noticed with the gamification apps was that they had niches so they were like just doing plants or animals or storylines. And things that we wanted to be mindful about was some of these became a little bit too overwhelming because there was so much going on in these apps, which also led to crashes and people losing their data. So then we went to doing how might we, and we came up with how might we design a gamification fitness app that motivates users to establish and maintain healthy habits while also being fun and engaging. So with that, we really wanted to dig deeper into the personas. So we made 2 personas. Christina Davis is an art creator. She decided that she's going to be working from home. She loves getting lost in her art, but she's decided with this, there comes some frustrations, like lack of structure and becoming restless. And she knows that it's really important to be productive. So she's looking for something that will help her be productive, but she's not going to compromise work for exercise. So she needs something in the middle. We also did Kai. So Kai is a web developer and has really high standards and is kind of a perfectionist and gets disappointed in themselves easily, but decided that their New Year's resolution was going to love who they are and focus on mental health. And they know that physical movement is connected with mental health. So they're looking for something that they can do at home and has low impact, so they're not really having those triggers of disappointment. And then we did a journey map for Christina, who's starting her own online successful art business. And when she's downloading this app, what we're hoping is the download and onboarding is really easy and simple, that there's customization, different workouts she can do, having achievement and awards for the things that she's doing on top of her busy life. And that when she reflects on it, it's something that's positive where she wants to continue using it and sharing it with others. After this, we went to the ideate stage, which I will hand over now to Josh.
All right, thank you. With the design system, the primary focus was the colors, kind of non-aggressive colors, not too intense, kind of on the pastel kind of aspect. Each color was chosen more or less to have a certain role, like that kind of the pinkish colors that way was more kind of system related. Purples were more the pet system, and anything that was activity based or achievement based would be types of greens. You know, toggles that'd be green, meeting certain goals, activation stuff like on the buttons for the shop. You know, showing that something's going on. Anything like that, adding goals. Same with a lot of the typefaces. It was chosen Poppins as the primary, just something that was not, is kind of a little bit more on the playful side. So any information that's presented was more like works ons or enter to present that way. Yeah. All right, I'm done with that. Passing off to Sarah.
And then we have our sketches and wireframes. So we have our hand-drawn sketch to the left, followed by the onboarding and game flow wireframes. Below that is the wireframe of the accompanying watch. And then we'll do a prototype walkthrough here. And we'll actually start with our create an account flow. So this is our loading screen with our cute logo. And I'm just going to continue on. So this is our screen that you start off with. We're going to create an account, put in our email, and then click create an account. And once users create an account, they are led to onboarding. As you can see right away, we went for a fun approach with the screens here, which reflect the upcoming homepage. These are some animal characters that users will unlock within the app as encouraging pets. And then we have the progress bar below so that users can see how many pages are left. We'll start. Set reminders allows users to set up notifications that they want. If we recall back to our persona, Christina, she needed reminders to maintain her health and fitness journey. We'll actually just skip that for now. And then we have our activity level selection page. Users choose which group they fall under. This would ideally tailor the experience of each user so that there'd be appropriate suggestions for when they set their goals. So we'll click on lightly active, as that's around where most of our input was from the surveys. Next, we have our activity tracker. This affects what will show up in our app. Again, with customization, this is important because some users may have no use for, let's say, the calories section. So we can take that off in case it might be a triggering topic for them, for example. And then that, therefore, it would not show up on their homepage. So we'll click next. And then we have our choose your pet page. This is kind of Pokemon-like where you choose your starter pet. We're going to go ahead and do the panda and we click finish. And that leads us to our reward page. We wanted users to feel motivated and engaged, so rewards are important to our app. Here they receive a reward for finishing onboarding. Users will also receive a reward for opening the app once per day. There are no streaks, however, as that leads to a sense of guilt based on our research. We have a background and a toy reward that Josh will run through a bit more later. And then we're just going to click claim reward.
Okay. All right, and this is the main page for the game itself. But in the top areas, the kind of the general level system is just time put in. You'll can't gain levels, just to show real-time progress, showing that keep logging in, things like that, making achievements, just that something to look at and kind of show that on their achievement. To the right is the shop. That is how we'd be able to make income. It would be, limited time pets, certain toys, new backgrounds, things like that, for reasonable cost, just kind of get people to, buying towards it, since everything else is free on the app. There's a quest tab. That is pretty much any goal that was set. If they get really close to completion, or they complete it, it'll show up as green, kind of show that completion aspect, that you're just feeling good. You see that, oh yeah, I finished that. That's great, awesome. And they can click on it, it'll clear out. Instead of using reds, we use the grayed out after about 50%, nearly meeting the goal. It's just as a way to incentivize without putting pressure, like guilting you into finishing anything. The notification bars, it hides away, but that comes up with the icons, and those are different notifications. Birthday alert, new pets are released, new toys, new locations for the backgrounds, things like that. And of course, you can click at the button way. The scroll bar right there is the actual goals that the user has set, or was preset from onboarding. It's just meant to be a quick way of tracking. Let's say they met their calorie goal, they click on that and it adds points towards it, and then after they meet a certain number of clicks, then it starts to show up on the quest, because it's showing that you're getting the completion aspect. The other could be meditation, strength training, pet walks, just whatever selected on there, or anything on the onboarding. There's the main area where the pet's at, has a background. Toys can show up next to the character. If you click the little settings icon, there's toggles. So there's the toys tab, and then there's the backgrounds. And whenever anything's active, it has a green ring around it, so showing what the actual active item is at the time. And then of course you can click the X and get out. The green button at the bottom is the run walk button. It's meant to be a quick feature. So if let's say somebody wants to just get right into doing a pet walk or a personal walk, they can click on that. It brings up an overlay, which is meant to be a power saving feature. That way it can be in the pocket and the game's running without the possibility, because in some phones, depending on the memory, it'll just close out and it's not going to track anything. So this is a way to kind of bypass on there. This would also toggle the watch if the watch feature is enabled. So if you swipe on there, of course, you can get off the screen. On the bottom part is most of pretty much the main actual menus. There's the target, which is that's going to be the goals. They can be set, and then it appears on the scroll wheel as a button. So on this one, it's going to be pet walk, and then the quantity for the goal. So if they hit the pet walk button 25 times, then they're going to meet their quest, and it'll show up as the green for the completion. The green plus button would add additional goals if they were going to add more than what was on the screen at the time. They would go and hit confirm with what they've chosen, and then of course they get the confirming what was said, and they can tap to close out and go back to the main screen. All right, and the one next to that, that's going to be the stats. On that one, it shows anything that they've ever tracked ever will show up here. So if they did have calories set up, they would show the number of calories they burned since downloading the app or creating their account. The miles traveled, because there are features where you can just for travel distance, the steps, number of actual pet walks, cities they've traveled to, which can also be a goal that you set. It's meant to be general goals. Anything they complete that makes them feel fulfilled. Same with meditation hours. So you'll be able to click out there. The next one is the pet menu. This is how you would actually select your pet. Any unlocked pets show at 100% with that specific green. There would be a purple outline on there that showed that's the engaged animal. And then the one with the green ring is the one that's currently being worked on. On the main screen, you'll see it was 75% out of 100, and that's what it is. It's the goal to actually complete to be able to get the new pet. So that any of the step goals, anything like that, it's just general points, general point system towards that one goal of unlocking a pet. At the bottom is the settings. It does give the username that what the account is assigned to and their email. There are toggles. That's the Apple Watch feature. If they don't want that included for the overlay, they can be turned off. Notifications in general can be turned off. Vibrations related, sounds, anything like that. All those are optional that way. Further down, there's a contact us button, and that's for general feedback, a good, bad, problems, anything like that, they can reach us. There is also a reset password button, just make it a lot easier for the user, just depending on what they need on there. And then the general log out of the device button. All of those, they turn green on click to just, you know, show the user that something's happening, because there's nothing more frustrating than having buttons that have no sort of feedback to show that's completed what we're trying to achieve. Let's see, and that's everything on that. Here, and then there's the Apple Watch feature that's if it was toggled, this is what would show up on the watch. Your pet would come up, it'd be animated, and it of course gives feedback, you know, positive feedback. Oh, you're amazing, you meet your goals, you know, things like that. The user clicks ahead with the arrow or swipes, then it actually shows the step goal as well. That way they don't have to keep pulling their phone out. They're just trying to check that general goal. If they move further out, there is a push to stop button. I guess it's in the same feature as when you're at the gym and you kind of hit that just quit button, they can just do that. If they do push to stop, it does give the stats for that workout. So if they click on there. Oop. Oh man, something messed up since then. Let me see if it does it show the because it should show the options. So we bring up that screen separately if you stop it, I think. There you go. Yeah, that's well, it's supposed to do that. The results and then the great work would pop up animated wise. I'm not sure why that messed up. It worked perfectly fine when we did the video. But the results was just showing that in that case for that work, I would show the number of steps, you know, like feet, number of calories, just whatever happened to be set up for that specifically for the metrics. Because it's on the overlay too. There are the quests that were engaged at the time that were closest to completion. That's why it will show like the number, you know, distance or anything like that. We try to make it as intuitive as possible. Anything that's a goal that they're actively working on, that's what we try to show as metrics, so they know what they're keeping track of. Yeah, done there.
Next, we have the task flow. This one highlights the onboarding flow, which we shared during the prototype walkthrough.
So for this case study, some challenges that our group faced was just making sure that we had enough information, because this is user-centered, so we had the pressure of that. Wireframes and concept, we just really wanted to make sure that we were adjusting ideas to fit our concept, and then also aligning to the WCAG and details and consistency. We had a vast amount of ideas between us and the users, and just really trying to keep it all consistent and making sure that everyone felt like they had equal amount of collaboration. We had a lot of learning opportunities. We had a lot of fun doing this. Time constraints, we learned that while we're doing things, we don't need perfectionism, but we do need to understand the whys behind what we're doing. We also kept the before and after work when we were talking to Slater to really understand how to become better at our UX profession, and also just keeping super organized because we were collaborating a lot. There was a lot of things going on, so that really helped us. So we had a lot of fun making this app. So we talked a lot about what our next steps would be with making this app even better and more fun. So setting goals, we would like to talk to users to know more about what goals do they like, what goals would they not use, and are there any that we missed out opportunities on. The pets being the main focus, we want to be able to animate them and create movement and interaction so we can keep it lighthearted and fun. Personalization is huge within our neurodivergent users. So one feature that we discussed that we could do right away is making sure that users could change the layout from our primary colors chosen if they don't like those color combinations, and working on community. All the apps that didn't have community, it was users did give feedback like, we don't have a community, we don't have that belongingness that we're looking for. So that's something else that we would like to do for our next steps with Healthish. And thank you so much for being with us today and listening to our presentation on our app Healthish.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Team 10. You guys did a really good job. I think, gamification, that was like the point, and you guys really did a good job with that. So I'm gonna hand it over to Mandy for the critique.
Yeah, just a few things. Congratulations, you guys, on presenting. That was awesome. A few things. Let's start out with some of the things that I really loved. I really liked the mobile interface and on the Apple Watch and on actual phone, and how they pair well together. I think there's a lot of great integrations in that. I think also the flows between your prototypes looked really great and smooth. I did have a few questions though. And Padma, correct me if oh wait, where'd Padma go?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, there
Yeah.
you are.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make this a little bit more conversation based, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Um,
Sure.
So for in the very, very beginning, when you guys were doing user research, what prompted you to do the questions that you did for the user interviews?
We really wanted to focus on understanding pain points and just understanding what is their general feedback and thoughts when they're using a fitness app. And actually, most of the users that we talked to aren't using apps currently. It was all like past.
Yeah, okay, that's great. So, and the only reason why I ask is because typically before we even start research, one of our big things is, what are we researching? What is our research question? And that could be a very general question, but that helps start and keeps us aligned with what we need to answer as we're doing this research. So it would have been really great to be able to see that on your presentation, that overlying question of what are we trying to find out? Because that will also help me understand your research a little bit better. So you said that users didn't like the term weight loss. Notifications were could be put on as a negative connotation. I noticed on your app that there was still notifications on there. How are you planning on making that like more focused on that feature?
Yeah, so Josh, Sarah, and I definitely worked together on this, because from the user research, it wasn't the notifications that were necessarily bad. It was the language used within the notifications, like, hey, you missed 3 days. And so a lot of our users do have perfectionist tendencies, and it's the language that really bothered them the most. So I'll let Josh kind of go over with how he also handled that part.
Okay, for the prototype, it was actually set with pretty much everything toggled on. The features could be turned off for even the notifications themselves. With that's what kind of makes it harder, because that's a part of the UX, is to show some sort of feedback. So this kind of goes in line with the slider bars, kind of the item, but those were more system related, like to have the options if they really wanted to see those, because those tend to be positive notifications, like new features or anything added that way. But general notifications, it wouldn't be phone notifications, like actual like Duolingo, you know how you get those little notifications, hey, we missed you, buddy, after 2 days, or don't miss your streak, things like that. We try to avoid those type of notifications. Those would be more in-app as we go. So we are trying to avoid that in general. But in terms of feedback style notifications, we try to keep them in line with being more positive, less wordy, suggestive in any way, like suggesting, hey, you need to finish something. It's just meant to say, hey, you achieved. So that's what we try to keep to with most of the notifications. Hey, you finished something, you achieved something. So they're keeping it positive in that sense. Try to do less reminders unless they set reminders, but we don't have it set in the system right now for reminders. It's meant for somebody opens the app and they're going to set a goal that they're going for. So there's no real need for reminders. We tried to use the pet system as a way to get them to keep coming back. So I guess that's our line of thinking, is trying to get outside of that mentality and more for having reasons for them to want to load the app, for one, and then it's from there, it's on them to finish their goals. And then on our side, we just try to make it where there's always constant positive feedback, so they want to keep doing it. It's how to describe it without being negative, kind of, you hear about the experiments with the mice or something. They know they're going to get food if they ring a bell. It's kind of going along with that, like just constant positive feedback that they know if they do it, then it kind of makes them feel good. So we try to kind of keep with that way of behaviors, but try to stay away from dark patterns. We don't want to guilt them. We don't want to, I guess, like mentally hack them, more or less. It's just meant to be a fun app that they're going to want to keep coming back to and feel like they're always achieving something. And that's our goal, is to always feel like you're reaching the next level. You got to unlock a new thing. You reach this quest, and and they keep rehashing. You keep adding quests. I mean, you can even do multiple quests of the same thing. So a lot of those notifications are going to be, hey, you completed this. You completed this. Same with the quest bar. It's kind of along the line with that. Anything else that's like a system notification, it's really just new stuff. So it's still kind of that positive, like, oh yeah, there's a new pet. So that we try to stick to that, not pestering, I guess, is I kind of have to put that.
Yeah, no, that's great. It would have been really cool during the presentation if, as you walked through these specific features, you explained how they really tied back to those personas and pain points and motivations and goals. Because at some point it became more about the feature and less about the user. And we want to always bring it back to why we're creating this and why it's important or why it's not important. Going back to the personas, you had 2 personas and it went by pretty quickly just because of time, but is there a specific reason why you have 2 personas?
To be honest, it's just because of previous experience. Just because of like a class I took, that's kind of what they said, is just have 2. So I made 2 that were kind of based off of users that I had talked to during the interviews and had different personalities. Like one was ADHD more so or less, and one was OCD. So just kind of getting more of the community in there versus just like a super specific like person, because it wasn't just ADHD that we were targeting. So that's why I wanted to show 2 different neurodivergent users.
And I see Josh's comment down here, physical goals versus mental goals. Here's kind of the magic behind that. It doesn't need, 2 is not a magic number at all. Like you can have a ton of different, it really just depends on the product that you're making, honestly. I know that's like the whole thing about research and this thing, it depends, but it really does. It really, really does depend. And typically what you're going to be focusing on when you're creating these personas is a variation in users. If there is any type of like crossing happening, then you're not really making a true persona for a specific group. You want them to be different. Like that is the goal. Because you're going to be creating a product that caters to many different people, not just 2 personas that are kind of the same, So in this case, for Josh's comment down here, physical goals versus mental goals, I know I saw you with your mic off, Taylor. That can be 2 personas if it was specifically focused on users that are more mental, and then personas that are more on like physical disabilities, but that needs to be very clearly defined. Taylor, go ahead and say what you need to say.
Yeah, I was gonna mention too, kind of from your initial designs and the way you kind of like structured your research out, neurodivergence is a huge population set that you're targeting right now. So typically what I recommend is always it's like a funnel. You want to focus down, down, down into like a particular group that you want to target. Because if you're focusing, like you say, ADHD versus bipolar, or like they're gonna have their own unique challenges that you're gonna be trying to present. And as a result, your research is going to be so broad, it's going to be really, really hard to focus that down into something that you can execute on. Typically, if you're working with a stakeholder, if you have a particular group and focus on, then you have the value that you're associating with that one particular group. Once you execute on that one particular group, whether that's ADHD, whatever it would be, then you could maybe expand that as like, okay, now here's the next step of how we can like facilitate that for the next user. And this is how that design may change to facilitate that. But yeah, I would recommend focusing it. I really did like though, like a lot of your presentation had these user quotes throughout the entire process. And I thought that was a really good net positive. I would just really tightly attach those directly to the outcome of your prototypes and designs, similar to what Mandy said.
And how are we on time, Esther?
You can have maybe 1 or 2 minutes, that's fine.
Okay. Design system. So I am not proficient on design because I am not a UX designer, but I am used to looking at design systems. I think the one big takeaway for that would be make sure that those colors are all ADA accessible, not just separately, but together, because I noticed that when you had overlaid different pinks with other pinks, it starts getting a little blurred. And when you have grays with other grays, it starts getting a little blurred. We're not just talking about color on white, it's colors interacting with each other as well. And for the labeling, I know, Josh, that you had to explain what the greens were and the pinks were. It would be really great for the design system if you were able to just have that on there as a way of instruction instead of having to explain it. What else? I mean, overall, it was a really cute app. I love the animals and the pets. I'm major into gamification and playing things that motivate me. So I really appreciated that. Just remember to always bring it back to your user and why you're doing research, and continue building on that, because you want to be able to validate your designs with the personas and the research that you've done in the past. Good job, guys.
Good job.
Awesome.
I would like just a 1 minute. Like I would like to add few more pointers from design point of view that I saw out there. Like when you are creating a design system, consider different colors. Primary color will be 2 or 3 color, and then others will be secondary colors. So that will help you to design the hierarchy also, your component, that the one which you will be using. That is first thing. For fonts, I see like 4 different fonts you have used. So at least consider at least minimum 1 or 2 fonts, not more than that. It will be like a very various fonts for your users also to understand your brand language. So that is also one thing to consider. And in the prototype version or maybe the design files, I have seen some areas wherein some buttons and call to actions are not that much of tappable area. So you can consider that also, like the tappable area should be considered for our fingertips. So that is one thing. And for designing any interface, consider the status bar also for mobile, so that you will get a proper understanding of the mobile structure, the status bar and the header, and then your main components. So that like some of the action was like behind the status bar or things like that. So everything will come inside the actual component. So that's the thing from design front. But overall project was good. Nice. Good job, guys. Great.
Okay, awesome. We're going to have maybe more questions later. Let's move on to our second team. Team 25, we're gonna have it presented by Lynn. So Lynn, if you would like to share your slides, you can start now.
Just getting my screen set up. Cool. Everybody can see? I'm going to take that as a yes. All right, here we go.
Yes.
Hi, everybody. My name's Lynn. I'm from Team 25. I'm comprised of myself, Meg Hulley, and Patricia. And this is our presentation on helping people learn how to save lives as part of the IterateUX Design Challenge. So I want to start by getting everybody to imagine something. It's the weekend. You're at the park. You're there with your friends, having food. Everybody's having a good time. But then suddenly one of the people in one of the groups sitting next to you falls down to the ground and they're not looking that good. And it's because they're having a heart attack. This is now a race against time, because for every minute that passes after a heart attack begins, that person's chance of survival goes down. But their chances of survival can be preserved if someone starts giving them CPR very quickly. But in the park right now, how many people have the training to do that quickly and confidently to help save this person's life? So St. John's, New South Wales, this is the state-based branch of the global not-for-profit St. John's. They do first aid products, they do first aid services, and importantly, they do first aid training to help people learn the skills they need to save lives. So if you're reading between the lines here, obviously we went for the education redesign challenge prompt, where we were looking at information architecture, organization, and real world pain points to redesign a website. So this is where our team started. We looked at, okay, so who are our users? And for this project, who are we going to focus on? Because we only have so much time and we can't address everybody. And secondly, and really, really importantly, is there a problem? Because if there isn't, we need to switch to another topic very quickly. So users, we explored this via a social media sweep, some semi-structured interviews, and a phone call to St. John's, New South Wales. And what that led us to was that our users kind of fell in three groups. We had our career learners who were doing a St. John's, New South Wales first aid course because they wanted to get into the St. John's first aid services arm, particularly if they were thinking about pursuing paramedicine or medicine. We had our vocational learners like our security guards, surf lifesavers, karate instructors, etc., who needed to get first aid training for work. And then we had our personal interest category. Of these three, so we made multiple attempts to get in touch with St. John's, New South Wales over the course of this project. It turns out they were just very busy at the time because they're redoing their website. So they didn't have that much time to talk to us, but their phone reps were able to validate to us that they do actually get a number of phone calls from people who need first aid training for work, who have problems selecting and booking in for the appropriate course online. So that's why we chose to focus on this user group, because we knew, okay, this is a real world group that has a problem. So do we have a user group? Yes, great. Next, what was the problem? So we did a usability audit, but we also did a lot of usability testing over the course of this project, and that was really, really critical to us. So if we have a look at the St. John's, New South Wales website, and I'll just kind of talk through some of the key things we observed in preliminary usability testing. So the task we set our users was, okay, so imagine that you've just got a new job as a personal trainer, but you've been told that before you can start, you need your first aid and CPR certificate, which you've never done before. Can you show us on this website how you would find and book in for that appropriate course? So to really test the system, we actually ran two scenarios with our users. One was, can you find an easy to categorize course? So that was our first aid and CPR, but also can you find a difficult to categorize course like asthma and anaphylaxis, just to see what do they do under challenge. So most users were pretty good at clicking first aid training, which then takes them to this page where they need to select what category of first aid course they're going to do. So St. John's, New South Wales actually has 20 different first aid courses. And if you count all the different modes of delivery, it's actually 31. So a number of choices that must be made. Those looking for a first aid course were pretty good at clicking on this category, which then took them to this page. They then needed to select between 7 different flavors of first aid and CPR courses. So we were seeing some user overwhelm during usability testing with people going, wow, that's a lot. What's the difference between them? If they clicked book now, that then took them to the course specific page. And we did actually observe some some task failures or task success with errors at this point. Sometimes because users were just, again, unsure about which course was the right one for them and not feeling too confident about putting $220 on the line if they weren't sure. But we also saw task success, but with error. So people selecting a course confidently, but it was the wrong one. So mode of delivery is really important with these first aid courses because a lot of users want to do the 4-hour online course, but that's really only for people that have done first aid training before. Under this scenario, for people that haven't got first aid training, they actually need to do the 1-day face-to-face course. Things got really interesting when we asked people to find asthma and anaphylaxis, which was our difficult to categorize course. So again, users were really good at coming to this page where they looked for asthma and anaphylaxis first in this category, but that's not where it was nested. So they came back to here and then they went, okay, well, maybe it's a specialized course, but it wasn't there either. They then went, okay, how about I try search? But despite typing in asthma, anaphylaxis, or both, search results came up with 0. So we actually had 3 of our 6 users fail this reach task failure at this point because they were like, we can't find it. 2 of our 6 users were able to find asthma and anaphylaxis by going through every single category and going through every single course until they found it. And then we had 1 of our 6 participants actually read all the body copy until they finally found asthma and anaphylaxis here. So users prefer to scan rather than read. And all of our users who did actually end up finding asthma and anaphylaxis under education and healthcare went, wow, that's not where I expected it to be. So coming back to key usability test findings, we observed issues with categorization. Things weren't always where people expected them to be, but also user overwhelm. Users struggled to select the right mode of delivery and also got overwhelmed at a lot of the text, which is why we saw so many task failures or task abandonments and people saying, I would not pay $250 at this point. I would talk to somebody on the phone before making a purchase. So we were looking at a number of metrics over the course of our project. The key ones were definitely success rate, but we also were tracking other things like system usability score, which initially clocked in at 50.5. So was there a problem for us to handle in this project? Yes, great. So I'm not going to dwell too long on artifacts, but obviously we did them. We followed all the appropriate processes. And what that led us to was understanding the customer journey, but also our persona. So for presentation purposes, this is just the proto persona. So meet Joe. He's a personal trainer from Sydney who needs first aid and a CPR certificate before he can begin work and start earning money. So his journey on the website is that he comes to St. John's, New South Wales, because that's where work has told him, look, just do a course here. So he's like, okay, great, I'm on the right website. Then he sees all the courses and goes, wow, that's a lot. And through trying to find the right course for him, he just gets a little bit overwhelmed. It's a lot of words. They all look the same. He doesn't want to spend $220 on a course where he's not even sure if it's the right one. And so he decides he needs to talk to a human. And so he has to call St. John's, New South Wales on the phone rather than making the full booking online. So the problem, how can we, so users like Joe were struggling to find and select an appropriate training course online with confidence. So how could we make it easier for people like Joe who need first aid training for work to find and select an appropriate training course online with confidence? So if my Figma will work for me, okay. One of the other things we're also keeping at the back of our mind in this project was, if we can get this right for Joe, this is actually good for business, because if we have less people like Joe calling up St. John's on the phone, they're happy, but also it means St. John's doesn't need to have as many people manning the phones answering, oh, so you're a personal trainer, okay, I recommend this course, etc., etc. We weren't able to validate with confidence, but it was one of our assumptions. So defining scope, before we hit the tools, we needed to make sure we didn't get eaten up by the scope creep monster, because there were only 3 of us and we only had a little bit of time. So we decided that we really wanted to address the areas where we saw the greatest rates of task failure in preliminary testing, which was course selection and mode of delivery selection. If we had time, we wanted to swing back and tighten up the billing process where we'd observed some friction during the user flow, but that was very much a if we have time. So this is how we made course selection easier. We changed the hierarchy of decision making, and we also created multiple pathways to finding courses. So this is how things went in the original website. Users had to first select one of 6 categories of first aid courses before they saw any of them. And then they had to make decisions on what type of course and what mode of delivery all at the same time. We observed task failure and task success with errors at both these points in the original flow. So what we did was we looked at the categorization issue first and did an open card sort and learned very quickly that these courses were very difficult to categorize because the entire product line is the category, entry-level first aid courses. If it got any more specific than that, it actually started to veer into nursing or paramedic or medical territory. So because that was tripping up our users, and we also couldn't find a better way of doing it, we actually just eliminated that step and focused instead on, can we just make it easier for users to select a course first and then select a mode of delivery after that, to make it at least less overwhelming. And that went down pretty well in usability testing. We also created multiple pathways to finding courses because we know that different people think in different ways, and we wanted to make sure whichever way you're trying to find this course, we just need to make sure that you reach your destination. So again, the way things were in the original website was you had to select a category first. Hopefully you got that right. And then you had to look at all your courses and the modes of delivery. So what we did was we let people have a look at courses, but we also introduced a keyword search. We let them filter by category tab. If users needed help, we also created a little quiz that they could complete to let them tell the system, this is about me, this is what I'm looking for. And then the system would punch out, oh, okay, we think this is the course you might be interested in. We also simplified the mode of delivery choice. So this is another area which we observed in preliminary testing that caused some friction for our users. So this, again, is how it appeared on the original website. You get courses and their mode of delivery all coming at users all at the same time, and it all kind of looked very similar. So what we did was, come on, Figma, you can do it. We let them select courses first and then let them select a mode of delivery afterwards via a comparison table. So now we've got something that visually looks quite separate and is easy to scan, emphasis on easy to scan. And that also really helped us address our task failure rates in testing. We also worked on UX copy a lot. So one of the unique things, I guess, about first aid training is it involves a lot of words that most people don't come across very frequently, like resuscitation, anaphylaxis, low voltage rescue. So we observed in testing that our users were actually really reading the copy to figure out which is the right course for me. Where am I? How do I get to where I'm looking at? But this is a double-edged sword, because if we put too many words on the screen, then we get people going, whoa, that's a lot of words. Now I'm overwhelmed. And now I will either make a mistake or get so overwhelmed that I want to talk to a human on the phone, which we wanted to avoid. So again, here is this page, and this is what we did with it. We turned it into a module card first to try to start introducing some images to break things up and condensed the text. So one of the things we observed in testing was users were really fishing for words that sounded like them. So that's why we ended up shifting text like suitable for members of the public and people in workplaces to the start of this little body text here, because what we observed was that users were really fishing for lines like suitable for workplace managers or suitable for people who need first aid training for work. We also tried to skim down on anything users felt was low value wordage, like various dates and various locations. If that's not helpful, we just got rid of it, basically. And that's kind of where things ended up. We also refined the payment process. So this was a thing where if we have time, we'd love to come back to it. So billing process. So this is the original page where users, so the friction point was users got annoyed that they manually entered in their personal details here and then had to do it again here when it came to shipping details. There was a checkbox saying copy billing address here, but very interestingly, almost all our users missed it, possibly due to the location. So easy fix for us. We just moved that box to the top and that helped people find it a lot more easily. And whilst we were there, we also did a light UI uplift, introducing a progress bar, but also a summary square over here, so users could verify what it was exactly that they were purchasing. We were very mindful that a lot of these courses do range between kind of $200 and $500 Australian. They're not super cheap, so they wanted to make purchases with confidence, so we tried to lean into that. So let's now put all of that together and have a look at the actual functioning prototype. So this was our landing page where we did a light UI uplift, clicking on first aid training courses again. So we come to the page where users can now just see all the courses at a glance. They can click on the next page if they want to. They can also filter by keyword search, filter by tabs, or take a quiz to help them identify a particular course if that's what they need to. I can go through the prototype in more detail at the end. I just want to make sure I go well for time. So how do we do on validation metrics? So we ended up doing 3 rounds of usability testing, and we really needed it to make sure we got things right. So the success rate improved. So by the end, we were able to eliminate all our task failures and task successes with errors, which was really important to us. We needed to make sure people selected the right course and the right mode of delivery for their situation. We also reduced the time on task quite significantly. I think for the Find First Aid course flow, we shaved, I think, about 2 minutes off. And then we took about 3 minutes off the Find an Asthma and Anaphylaxis course flow. Customer satisfaction rates as measured by a customer effort survey also improved from, I think, 3.5 out of 5 for the first aid flow and 1.3 out of 5 for the asthma and anaphylaxis flow, to 4.7 out of 5 for both, which we really liked because it suggested that whether people were trying to find an easy to find course or a hard to find course, it's okay. You can find it with an equal level of difficulty or ease. That's great. And then finally, our system usability score rose from 50.5, so the St. John's, New South Wales original website, to 95.4 by our final prototype. Metrics we wish we had. If this was a real product out in the wild and we had access to St. John's behind the scenes metrics, we would have loved to have known, what happened to the phone calls? Were we getting less phone calls from people who needed first aid training for work but weren't able to complete the process online? And also, just out of interest, has this affected the conversion rates at all? User feedback on our prototypes was generally pretty positive, especially for the keyword search and the comparison table. And most users finding the process pretty easy and straightforward and not having to think, which we really liked. What we learned over this process, usability testing was gold. I think all up we did close to 30 live usability tests, and I don't know how we would have done this project without it. We really needed it to figure out how people think, but also when they're stuck, what do people do? How do they problem solve? What are they intuitively fishing for? And that helped guide our redesign. It was also a really helpful shortcut. Under time constraints, we didn't have time to build and test everything we wanted. But since a lot of our solution iterations actually kind of already existed out in the wild because someone else had built them, that was great. We could just take our users there and start doing some competitive usability testing, or even just like competitive preference testing, again, to get some of those early qualitative qualitative findings to help guide what we actually did end up building. We found that edge cases, again, asthma and anaphylaxis, were really helpful for testing the robustness of our system. Finding an easy course is easy, but finding a hard course is harder. So we really wanted to make sure that it was also easy to find hard courses. Other big takeaway was users like to use search. They will only follow a particular pathway for so long. If it doesn't land them where they want to, they will use search. So have a functioning search. Next steps, if we had time, obviously we need to rejig all of this so it works on mobile. We would have loved to have done more testing, particularly with broader age group. Obviously, under time constraints, we did a bit of convenience sampling to recruit for our participants. A lot of them were aged in their 20s and 30s. It would be great to do this with a broader age group that's more reflective of the real world target audience, because some first aiders are in their 40s, 50s and 60s. It would also be great if we could address the user flow for people organizing first aid training for their workplace. So we didn't do this for this project because they weren't our primary target market. However, we acknowledge for St. John's, New South Wales, this is probably where a lot of their income comes from. So from a commercial viability point of view, we want to make sure that people still are able to organize workplace training for their place of work. And we also acknowledge there are more opportunities for continued user engagement within the website that we could explore. And that's the end. Thanks so much for listening. I'll now open to feedback and questions.
Thank you.
Yay, thank you. That was great. I'm sold on everything. Yeah, everything, honestly, I'm having a bit of trouble critiquing, only because that is how I would approach a lot of the same things that you've done for the usability testing. I think you did a really great job at doing your research and understanding the user group, and not just understanding the user group based off of assumptions, but actually reaching out and validating that those were the user groups for that organization, and really targeting on vocational learners, and figuring out, what kind of tasks they would be searching for in terms of the scenarios that you had given them. A quick question: what were some of the scenarios? Like, what were the scenario words that you had presented to the participants, if you have them?
Yeah, of course. So imagine you're a participant. I'd probably say something like, okay, I want you to imagine that you're a personal trainer. You've just been accepted for a new job, but before you start, you have to show that you have your first aid and CPR certificate, which you've never done before. Can you show me on this website how you would find and book in for that course?
Awesome. And that was the easy one.
Yep. The other one, we probably just rejigged it slightly and might have said something like, okay, this time the course you need to make sure you have is aspirin anaphylaxis. Can you show me how you would find and book in for that course on this website?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's, I mean, I would honestly do something very similar as a researcher. I'm assuming that the reason why you only had those two specific scenarios is because of time constraints, and testing anything outside of that would probably be a lot more workload for you and your team in the amount of time that you had to design. But I think it was really clever that you took this from a usability standpoint. Instead of creating something new, you identified real world problems that an organization had, and then you were able to create solutions based off of that. What do I have? A quick question though, for proto persona. So were you guys able to create an actual persona?
Oh, of course, of course. Did you want me to show that to you, or?
Out of curiosity, that'd be great. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. I just tend to go lean during actual presentations.
Yeah, I was getting that, so I didn't want to hop in, but.
Bless you. Okay, let me just rejig my Figma screens. Final file. Yeah, I think this is
Oh, great.
our the persona we submitted for the deliverable.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, I really appreciate that too, going lean and having the proto persona versus, going everything on if you're able to explain it well enough. I mean, these were great. I really love the baseline marks that you had versus the bench line that you had pulled up afterwards. It's nice seeing actual stats and numbers. I think that adds value to what you're creating, and showing that the design choices that you made are validated based off of additional user research. Overall, really influencing presentation. I'm actually gonna
Mandy,
throw it.
I was wondering what you thought about the usability testing results she showed.
Yeah, can you actually go back to the usability testing results?
Oh, the ones early on?
Yeah, was it the ones early on, Esther, or were they the?
Yeah, like there's ones with check marks. No, not very early on, but like
Oh, check marks. Hang on.
Once you did your benchmark.
yeah, this one,
It's-
yeah.
Yeah,
Because I was kind of confused with the information in the bottom, so I wasn't sure what that was supposed to indicate.
yeah. So, sorry, Lynn, if you want to explain it instead of. me
Yeah,
walking
that's
through.
okay. And that's a very valid question. I do come from a science background, so sometimes I'm just like, here's a data point. A was basically, do you mean these words here or the words in gray? Just before I.
In gray, yeah.
Great, cool. So ANA, just shorthand for asthma and anaphylaxis, which I didn't type out because it was just taking way too long. So basically, in the original website, we observed that 3 out of our 6 users, when they were trying to find asthma and anaphylaxis, hit task failure / abandonment, which meant they couldn't find it. We changed over the course of the prototype and redesign, we were able to make it so that all users were able to find the asthma and anaphylaxis course, and that's why it went down to a 0 out of 6 task failure. The time on task, basically just saying that users were able to find things a lot faster, that customer satisfaction for the asthma and anaphylaxis flow rose from 1.3 out of 5 to 4.7 out of 5, and then just the overall system usability score going up by a big jump, which we were elated about.
Yeah, I think I understand, but it would be great if you had like a visual, like even like a pie chart or something to compare before and after. So it's got a immediate like visual understanding of what you explained.
Yeah, I'll keep playing around with that. We did have a table initially, but it was a bit of a monster table because it was 2 flows and befores and after, but we can definitely still tweak that so it's less audience overwhelm looking at 2 numbers at once. But yeah, I'll keep that in mind. Thank you. Anything else?
Just gonna mention, as far as storytelling, like and this is more for everyone here, but when the reason our storytelling is so good through each of these steps is because when you're presenting to people, they're going to be doing one of 2 things, which is either they're going to be reading or they're going to be listening to you. So she's really good in this case at here are the 4 primary bullet points that I'm talking about that like you can read in like 3 seconds. And then immediately I'm keying into Lynn's speech and like what she's actually like walking through as part of her storytelling. So it's a skill in itself, but as designers, we have to kind of, we take it, we shorten or like broaden our scopes and what we're trying to figure out, and then being able to conjoin it into these small slide decks that really key into the primary points of what we're changing in the system. And what I recommend is when you have stakeholders then, and you've convinced, or like you have convincing data here, then maybe at the end of the presentation or like after slides, if someone asks you questions like, what do you mean by like improved usability? Can you like explain that a little more? Similar to what she did with Mandy, she can just jump right into that and say, here's the output of that and what that looks like in a little bit more detail. So you're staggering out the information in a way that people can easily digest and come back to, or like go into more depth if they really need that extra detail after the presentation.
Thank you.
Yeah, overall, I think this is really great. Great storytelling skills, like everyone had mentioned. I felt very engaged from the very beginning. Every time I had a question, you pretty much answered it right away on the next slide. I think, as Esther had pointed out, though, when we're so in our numbers, and everything makes sense to us, it does help to bring it back down a little bit and make sure that the people that we're presenting to may not understand all the information that we're giving them. So to put it more in layman's terms, that way we don't have to go back to it later.
Yeah.
Otherwise, this is really great.
Cool.
Thank you, Mandy. Thank you, Lynn.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a few more minutes. If anybody had any more questions or comments or feedbacks, you're welcome to share it with us now.
Great. And I would
Otherwise-
say like this was the really very good type of presentation that like you presented your case study with a storytelling manner, like what was the situation, what was your task and the actions, like a star method, like how we can just present a story, like how we went ahead, not just a process. Really great job, Dean. Nice. Great. Nice to see. I would say the people who missed this presentation, they should definitely see the storytelling way, like how she presented her case study. So yeah, nice, nice. Great job. Great. Okay, nice. So guys, tomorrow we have our wrap-up party. So we will be sharing the meeting invites to everyone. So feel free to join, and we will be having a wrap-up party in our different virtual space, IterateUX virtual space. So would like to see everyone out there. We'll explore some new platform, and yeah, we'll have some fun, and we'll congratulate everyone that people have worked a lot on this particular project for a month. So let's cheer each and every person, and then yep, we'll announce the winner as well tomorrow. Nice.
Great job,
Great.
Team 10,
Good
Team
job.
25.
Good job. Yep.
Thank you for sharing.
Okay, thank you. See you
Okay.
tomorrow and have a good one. Bye-bye. Thank you, Mandy, and thank you, Taylor, for providing such a great feedback. Yeah. Thank you so much.
You.
Okay, bye-bye. See ya.